can you see this person's perspective, right, but can you see beyond this barrier that is in front of you right now? And we do get to that place of gratitude and actually appreciation. Now, it takes us refusing to stay in a victim mindset in order to do that.
Trauma is often the result of an overwhelming amount of stress from a situation that exceeds one's ability to cope, such as the death of a loved one, the end of a meaningful relationship, or the rejection of a loved one. Do you pretend that everything's good when it really isn't? When you don't have a positive and healthy way of dealing with your trauma, you end up repressing your negative emotions. It can be hard to recognize unresolved trauma on the surface, especially within ourselves.
Ooh, isn't that the truth? Today, we're talking about, are we listening to our body? Are we creating dis-ease within ourselves by going, I'm fine.
I'm fine. Everything is good. Fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah.
See, and I don't think faking till you making is, I think faking it till you make it is one way that we tell our brain that it's one way of setting up a limited thought process. Because what about instead of fake it till you make it, which feels a little demeaning to ourselves, we say practice until we succeed at it, or practice until we get better at it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Tim has just joined us. Good afternoon there, precious ladies. Happy hump day.
Tim.
Love you both. We love you, Tim.
Yes.
Tim invited me to something very cool, and it's something that's like, sometimes when you get invited to do the coolest things, it's always like the weekend when you're booked to the max and you can't do something. It's like, oh, man. But sometimes that's what we're talking about on this show, is that sometimes we're not listening to what we want to do.
Right. Maybe
I should take my own dadgum medicine. Hey, Evie, glad that you're here. Got some people watching all over. We loved it. This is, if you just joined us, this is Launch Date with Devon and Teri. And we are here every week to do some heavy lifting for a lighter spirit. Today, we're going to talk about literally lifting off those things that are keeping us sick, feeling bad. We are trapped in this feeling bad body, and it doesn't mean that that's all we can do.
Right.
And Jeanette says, oh my gosh, this is totally me. I always act like everything is fine. If someone asks me how, I always say good, when lots of times I'm not so good.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times, we'll say we're good, we're fine, we're whatever, because the person that's asking, if we're being honest, they really don't give a shit. Like, they're just asking because it's just filler words, right? Like, how you doing? They don't care that you're not feeling well or da-da-da-da-da-da. But it's how you approach it.
Well, it's like when someone says, hey, do you need help moving? You hope to God they say no. Please, right. I don't want to move your heavy suitcase of trauma. I don't want to move it because I've got my own trauma. And Elizabeth says, I always say, I'm good, I'm fine, except to a few close friends.
Yeah.
And I think that you have those people, and I've started looking at my life and I go, I'm narrowing down the people that I go, if I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, they're asking me how I am as a form of tete-a-tete, a conversation. Those kind of people I put in that category. It's not, I don't get rid of them. People go, oh, you're just, get rid of people. No, I don't. But what I say is, here are the people that when they say, hey, how are you doing? I know when Teri calls me and says, hey, how are you doing? She means it. She means, how are you doing? And I know that
just like my dogs were just saying, how you doing, Devon? Because they all just sounded off like a bunch of little hooligans over there. We're so uncivilized in this house. It's the Pew crew of 3. Yes. How are you doing? You know that there's some people that when they say, how are you doing or where are you at today, they genuinely mean it. Like when I work with people and I say, how are things going today? Oh, that was.
I just noticed that. I go, we both had to itch at the same moment.
We have won the gold medal for the USA in synchronized practice. So it'll be a thing. You just watch. I had a friend that sent me something about the Olympics in the future, and it was hysterical. And it could totally be that. I'm going to mute you guys for just a second.
Okay. Well, at that point, amen. Love it. We all have that and said that. Amen. And you hear, listen to, and answer to the ones that you truly know are genuinely interested. Amen. Yeah.
Well, and yes, and so when someone asks you, maybe assess where you are in that moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that moment,
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm in that moment, you know,
Yeah.
rather than scanning out your entire week or your month or your whatever, bring it into the present moment. How are you doing? I'm feeling okay right now. I'm feeling fine right now,
Right now.
and add that bookend to it so that's sealed up,
I think,
because
yeah.
go ahead.
One of the things that I think is really important is that you find your people. Now, sometimes some people even narrow it down to have your person, but I think have your group, your posse, your collective that you can be very, very honest with, but you don't dump on them. But at the same time, you have an honest exchange. Where
Hmm.
are they? Where are you? And you can really be honest with each other. I think that a lot of times we think, do I have someone that I can just dump my stuff on? I feel better, but you've dumped all that on someone else. Remember that it's reciprocal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we had talked today earlier about like listening to our heart, mind, and body when it's telling us one thing and we go against it. I've
Right.
talked with a few clients and a few friends about, how we love our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so much the superficial, not that loving your body superficially isn't just the be all end all for some
Right.
people, but it is truly about your organs, how your body functions for you, and being the best steward to that body that you can. If something's going on inside your body, rather than ignoring it or, oh my God, this is happening again. I hate it when this happens. Lean into, you know what? How can I listen? What do I need? I need rest. I need supplements. I need food. I'm being nudged to go to the doctor,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Listening to that and honoring that, because if not, all of that unopened dis-ease talk inside will manifest into some sort of external dis-ease.
And oddly enough, when we start putting into our body the time, the effort, um, the financial investment, let's just face it, we will find time to spend money on things that tear our body down. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I mean, we will spend money on alcohol and certain prescription drugs and things to make our body feel better at the moment, knowing full well that it really is not a permanent fix. It is a temporary band-aid that is going to get old and gross and stinky. It's not a permanent fix. When we could spend that same investment taking care of our body, I would say one of the ways that sickness manifests in our body because of trauma is exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling that we are just overwhelmed with everything. I'm going to go to my bed like a little kid, and everything that I'm afraid of, I'm going to put my covers over my head. That's the adult manifestation of a not listening to our body.
Absolutely, because it becomes overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
All the little things that we, could be addressing, and we're not, then they pile up. And then suddenly looking at that huge pile of things to do becomes too
Mm-hmm.
much. So we just don't do it at all. But avoidance never makes something go away. Because here's the thing, you can avoid someone that has traumatized you in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You can avoid that person. You can avoid, um, you know, certain things. But if you're avoiding it, is it going to lessen the experience in the moment? Perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that your mind has released you from that. So you're still bound to this other experience, person, or experience by some sort of trauma until you have acknowledged that and resolved it. And it doesn't mean, that you've got to re experience that stuff, but you do have to be kind enough to yourself. If it doesn't serve you, then
Right.
stop sitting a place at the table for it. Because I tell my clients
Woo.
all the time, as long as you sit a place at the table for anger, fear, sadness, bitchiness, whatever it is, that fool's going to show up. You have invited it in unconsciously, and it will show up at the table. And then what do? You feed it. You know.
I'm writing this stuff down. I take notes, you guys. I just want to encourage you. If you watch this stuff, look, I do this too. The reason that we do this is because Teri and I have, I was her client, and then I said, this is stuff that the world needs to hear. And so I just will just jump right there out there as the guinea pig. But then everybody else started being guinea pigs too. Like Joyce says, I'm even bad about sharing with anyone how I really am. I don't want to seem like I have problems because I usually am here to listen to everyone else's problems. I try to encourage everyone, but I'm afraid to let people know how I'm feeling. Okay, go Teri.
Because
been there. I've heard this one.
As you're reading it, I'm like going, oh no, Joyce. First off, you are not here just to be a dumping ground for everyone else's emotional toxicity, whether it is a family member, whether it is a child, and I guess your children will be family members, but loved ones, friends, whatever. Your birthright is not to just be an emotional dumping ground for everyone else. Now, yes, there may be parts of us that want to be there to support people, but we also have to know when we are outside of that scope. And when someone is dumping and sharing and you're feeling like, oh, this is a lot, you have to learn to set boundaries with that. First and foremost, with yourself. I would love to chat with you or catch up with you. Today is not a good day. I assure you, they will find someone else to dump on. Now, the reason that most of us show up for the dumping party is because we have that FOMO. Like, we need to know unconsciously, we want to make sure if there's something we can do to help somebody, we want to help them. But if we're not taking care of our own mental faculties, cognitive wheelhouse, then it's a disservice to ourselves. And I tell people this all the time. We teach people how to treat us. And if we become that catch-all for everyone, but we're not expecting, sharing, talking with other people and making them aware that we need that reciprocated back at times, then
that's on us.
We feel depleted.
Yeah.
We're depleted and we're taking on all the other stuff and trying to figure that out and fix that. And that's a lot emotionally.
It is. And it's like a little garden that we plant with resentment seeds. And resentment seeds grow into kudzu of the spirit. It wraps around you, and pretty soon you don't exist. You're just two little eyeballs picking out with this vine that's completely around you. And it's a visual that I have of when, and I find it, and I'm just going to call them out because I love them all, but my church lady friends, girls, I've watched women who show up at altars, at women's events, and they're just exhausted. They have had life sucked out of them. And a lot of times it is by children. It is by friends. Just because you are in a Christian environment, just because you are part of your church does not mean Jesus never said be a doormat. I come from a that whole religious background. And so I'm going to tell you that stuff we've learned. Well, if it comes from someone in the church, I have to say yes. They can committee you into sickness. You have to learn to say no, even if it comes from somebody in your church. I'm just going to say that. So girls, say no.
In your church, in your family, in your work environment, I see a lot of people who will overextend themselves emotionally, and then they are upset or, because no one is there for them. But what I say to that is you have to start setting boundaries with that. And you have to know that sometimes some of these people, we're going to have to let them go. It doesn't mean that we're going to let them go in the sense of we got to burn those bridges and cut those ties completely. But I heard someone use an analogy the other day about, if that friendship, if you're holding it like a balloon and you're holding it real close to you, allow yourself to let some string out and let that person go a little further away. They can, you can still keep them in thought and prayer and, you know, catch up with them or whatever. But you can also monitor how much you let them dump, because dumping, it's no different than if you have good energy and if we're a car, we have good gas in our tank, right? All that energy, we use it all. And then if you pull up to a pump and they tell you this gas is toxic, it's full of sludge, are you going to put that in your gas tank? I don't think so, you know.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful what you're putting in your heart, or your mind, because it's not really your heart. That's just a, well,
I'm no good to my friends and family if I let that kudzu grow up around me and exhaust myself. I am good at exhausting myself and trying to do better. I head for the mountains to reset myself. Good. Now, this is where we
yeah.
switch horses and we start talking about things to do to take care of ourselves. I love that. Going to the mountains, going to the beach, going to your quiet place. I have a chair in the middle of my backyard.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
one chair in my backyard. It's in the middle of the yard. I just sit in my chair. Some people have a porch. Some people have something. And at the end of the day, whenever the birds come into roost, whenever the sounds of the afternoon start with the frogs, and anyway, that is my reset.
Hmm.
And we all need that place to start taking care of ourselves. I will say that supplements are very important to me. I know that if I don't get what I need health wise with my supplements, I don't feel good. You know. Now, what are some things that you have added to your regimen, Teri?
I meditate
Mm-hmm.
daily. Um, I go outside and I throw a ball with the dogs, because
Mm-hmm.
watching them have fun is pleasant to me. I enjoy it, you
Mm-hmm.
know. I do take supplements. I think it's journaling is a big thing. I journal
Mm-hmm.
frequently. I don't journal every day, but I also create times, and sometimes it's in the middle of, something stressful may happen, and you create that moment right then. You bring yourself into that space right then, um, instead of waiting to the end of the day, or doing, having a wheelhouse that you can bring yourself in, doing some breathing exercises, doing some quick gratitudes, getting you something healthy to eat for lunch, whatever it is, playing with the dogs and watching them have fun. There's so many things that we can do that run the gamut of, um, getting in a car and going somewhere, or just being right there with yourself. And depending on how much time you have to spend when your battery is drained, that oftentimes um, has a lot to do with what you do and how quickly you do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when we talk about self care and people think, oh, I can do a massage or a pedicure or a manicure. Self care is also saying no, thank you.
Oh,
You know.
that's so good. And honestly, it doesn't mean, and I know that people go, I don't have the money to go get a massage. I don't have the money to go do that. I don't have, okay. I went last week and I went to Dollar Tree and got some toenail polish and some pedicure, some little, so I literally spent $3, and I gave myself my own little pedicure. I just sat down and I took a nice hot shower and did my own little pedicure. And I go, it was just wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful because I took the time to do it. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And I love this. Suzanne said, I cut grass, pull weeds, then float in the pool. I love to mow. I mean, I'm that person. I love getting behind a push mower, and somehow my life straightens out when I see the lawn straighten out.
Hmm. Well, and when I hear people say, I can't afford a massage, there's self massage. Like, you can sit around and become aware of, your body, and do massage on your hands, your each finger, do massage on your wrists and your arms. There is self touch that you can do with massage, so that you are increasing the circulation in your body, so that you're waking up the skin.
Mhm.
Um, self-hugging. I mean, some people think it sounds corny, but the reality is we've just come out of a year where, we weren't allowed to touch anybody. So a lot of people are suffering from still the fatigue of last year, and they haven't quite gotten back in the swing of being comfortable. And so then a lot of self-care or self-kindness falls off the radar, right? And
Yeah.
so bringing it back in.
Joyce says her boxer dog is her only release. He will look at me sometimes like he knows how I'm feeling. I will tell you right now, I'm with you, Joyce. I feel that. I have Mike, the dog, who is my joy, and he gives good hugs. He's a really good hugging dog. Elizabeth, this is something interesting. I pull out adult coloring books and a box of gel pens.
Yes.
Art projects, letting our creative spirit. There's a great book that's Hugh McLeod wrote it called Ignore Everybody. And in that book, it says in kindergarten, we're all given a box of crayons. And year after year after year, more and more kids put those crayons away and says, that's not for me. Then when you're adults, maybe one person still has their crayons and puts art into the world. Okay, there you go. Well, we still get to go back and find our inner child. And like you said, the littles, Teri talks about the littles often, but there are a lot of, I've started really enjoying, I have not had enough time to sit down and read an actual book. I literally take a few times, I'll read a few pages, but I've learned that walking around, I can listen to audiobooks.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, it has been fantastic.
Yeah.
I just absolutely love, and instead of being addicted to the things that are detrimental to our bodies, because for the quick fix, become addicted to the things that feed you well, that nourish you. Nourish is a good word.
Mm-hmm. And, here's the thing, we say we grow out of so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just grow out of that. I need to find something more adult. Coloring, drawing, how many of you guys, when you were younger, did you take the paper and the pen or the pencil and the paper and you just did that loop-de-loop-de-loop-de-loop-de-loop? Then you would color all the little loop-de-loops, right? People walk into my office and it looks very adult, but I can break out real quick. The Play-Doh, the coloring books, the kinetic sand, love that stuff. The Nerf ball and bat. I mean, there's so much stuff that we can do to have fun, and also defining what your fun is, right? We're not talking about this is so much fun, you're just turning backflips and you're just so giddy with glee because you're coloring, but it is an exercise that allows you to be present with that moment. And get this, you don't have to color it perfect. Your elephants can be purple, your flowers can be, chartreuse. It does not matter. It can be pleasant to you.
I got that smile on my face because I thought about that Nerf bat. I have beat the hell out of some stuff with a Nerf bat. I'm just going to put that out there, y'all, because when sometimes your little is really pissed, I'm just going to call them like I see them. And sometimes that's what you need to get that stuff out of the toxic waste dump that has become you.
Absolutely.
And it manifests. And I will tell you, I do not think people manifest cancer within themselves, but I will say that our body can be a more prone growing ground if we allow sickness to overwhelm us from the outside in. With nutrition, with things like that. Our body, everybody knows, I mean, you've heard this from every doctor around, that cancer it comes into our body all the time. And our body either fights it off or it starts to grow. And there are things that I am trying to do so that I don't make it as easy a growing ground. And cancer can be mental. It can be physical. It can be emotional. It's all around us. And basically, to me, cancer is something that eats the organic us and our joy and our peace and our being. And we can turn that around, and people do it every day. There's a great story, and I'll shut up. But this woman was diagnosed, and the doctor said, "You and your husband go get your affairs in order. You're going to die." And they went and got every funny movie. He took time off from work. She quit work, and they sat home and watched funny movies every day. They went on little day trips, and pretty soon she outlived her expiration date, and they went back to the doctor and they said, "You have no cancer." They had laughed so much. They had physically fed themselves and nourished themselves so much that the body just said, "Nope, sorry, cancer, you're going to have to leave." Now, I'm not saying that's the answer to everything, but I'm saying that our bodies are great and beautiful mystical things created to fight off a multitude. And so there are ways that we can really physically be affected by the mental state.
Well, and the captain of the ship where the body is concerned is the mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's the mind. And so, we train our brain. If we think about it like this, the mind is here, right?
Mm-hmm.
The brain is actually the organ inside the skull. So what we think in the mind space trains the brain. And then the brain shows up and does either the help or the hindrance.
Right.
And the way that we feed those thoughts, the way that we shift the negativity, the way that we stop belittling ourselves, the way that we connect the mind and the body together. I hear a lot of people say, "Well, my heart just tells me this." And I always think your heart is just a bloody blob organ in the center of your chest. Like, if we're getting real about it, it's the mind.
Yes.
We define them with contrast with my heart, the good space, the happy space, the fluffy space in the mind. But it's really it's not the heart here.
Mm-hmm.
This organ has a great memory, a cellular memory, but we have to be accountable. We can often say, "Well, my heart just won't let me do it." That's kind of a cop out for, I just really don't want to do it because it might be scary. It might be this, it might be unnerving.
There is an evangelist named Joyce Meyer who has a book called The Battlefield of the Mind. It is a battlefield. And I will tell you, when I struggled with depression, and depression for me was not sitting around sad. It was not sitting around squalling. It was, I couldn't move. I was exhausted in my being. And somebody gave me that book. I was in like a box of books, and I just zeroed in on it. And I went, it's a battle. It's a choice. It's like you're doing battle with the outside. Because I mean, sometimes that pity pot is comfy.
It is. And sometimes, people will say, like, you use the word, it's a battle. I use the word, it's a salsa dance. Like, sometimes I'm going to lead with my positive, and sometimes that negative shit's going to creep in. But I'm always going to take the lead again, because even when low vibrational or negative stuff comes in, it doesn't mean there's not something there that we can learn right. from, learn how to adjust or tweak the way that we're showing up, and work with that, So it is really whatever we say it is. Life is hard. Is it? Concrete is hard. Life is not hard. We have some very challenging times, but if we learn how to show up, life is going to continually unfold. It's going to continually unfold, and we're going to continue, hopefully, to evolve, because that's what we're here for. Flowers do it. Trees do it. They start as seeds, they grow, they evolve. Everything does that.
Yeah. There is another book that really made a difference for me. And I took a picture of it just so I would be able to share it. And it's available. It's an old book. You can find some old copies on Amazon. The Agony of It All, The Drive for Drama and Excitement in Women's Lives. Joy Davidson wrote it. And it's how we get so addicted to the adrenaline rush of drama and excitement. And I always say that's wasted on the youth, because I don't have that anymore. But I had to literally reprogram myself, because I was raised in a very drama, just crazy kind of chaotic kind of existence,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's not traumatic. Like everybody goes, oh, it was abusive. No, I don't mean that. I mean, oh my God, we're going to be late for school. Oh my God, we're going to be late for this. It was always this, we're going to be late for this. We're not dressed for church, or we're not, oh, we don't have time to do this. It was always some project. Oh, somebody's coming over. We got to clean the house. It was always this urgency.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
I got addicted to that feeling.
yeah. And we create that. I mean, I know people that something bad will happen. And the next thing it's on Facebook, and they've reached out to 10 or 12 people telling them about it. And I'm like, you got to know, you've got to set boundaries with yourself too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Got to do that. So, and then you got to ask yourself, what is the reason why we get sucked into the drama? Sometimes it's that FOMO, fear of missing out. You need to be the first one to share the news. Do you really? Like, what is that about? Looking at that, I need to be the one to be there to help this person. It's a sense of importance that we have, sort of in an emotional hierarchy thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it really is that when you're raised in that hyper awareness of, or lack of awareness in just rush, go, that creates a system in your dopamines and your cortisols that are always looking for that,
Right. Suzanne says, I had to back away from friends because of drama. And sometimes there's a phrase that I have used: I bless you, I release you. Not to their face, of course, but in my time of prayer, meditation, whatever, letting it go, I bless them and I release them. And it's amazing, even when you're just putting that into the universe, giving them back to the one who made them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish you well. God bless you on your journey. Peace. I'm out. Whatever it is, whatever your thinking is, I mean, we have to be aware of the drama. Like, if you don't do drama will stop finding you. Again, if you don't set the place at the table, there's nowhere for it to sit.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Y'all write that down. That's so good.
It shows up and it squeezes in, and you're like, well, okay, come on, fear, you move over, and anxiety, you slide over. Drama, come on up. It's going to be there. And then you're going to be like, well, why are you here? Why is life so hard? Because you kept setting a place for it. Stop setting a place for it.
I love Tim. Always save the drama for your mama and calm down a nail. God doesn't care what church you go to as long as you show up. I will remember that. This is all so good. First of all, in order to stop listening to your body, first of all, listen what your body's saying. Find your group. Don't avoid. Stop setting a place at the table for the fools. Have a go-to place. Have your go-to getaway. Feed yourself well. And that's anything that you nourish yourself with.
I was just attacked.
She just had a little fit.
Don't mind me. I just had a small little jerk.
Oh, that's so funny. And change your thoughts, because if you change your thoughts, you change your life. That's Dr. Wayne Dwyer. Is it?
Yes.
Wayne Dyer.
Yeah. And if you practice,
John Dwyer, the sportscaster,
right.
Wayne Dyer, the guy, change your mind, change your life. Yeah.
And here's the thing: changing your thoughts, shifting your thoughts may not be super easy at first, but it's no different than if somebody said to me, do the splits right now, I'd look at them like they were crazy. What? Are you kidding me? But if I practiced it every day and I was kind to myself and I believed in myself, I guarantee you at 57 years old, I could do them or get pretty damn close. And I'd be proud of myself no matter what. So don't give up when you set out to change a habit that you have. If you've had a lifetime of feeding this mindset, be kind enough to yourself not to give up in the first day, week, month. It will happen, but you have to make the commitment to it.
Ooh, this is some good stuff today. I just thinking, I went off and then said, I can still do the splits.
Can you?
But then I'd have to call Tim to come pull me up after that. I can get there. I just can't get back up.
Girl.
Tim, Bradley, If I call you and say, I've done the splits and I can't get up.
There we go. That's a good shirt. We'll start our own merch line. I've done the splits and I can't get
Oh.
up, but I didn't give up.
Oh, I love it.
You
Listen,
know?
you both really sets the seed. Oh, God, that's such a great way to end the show. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank
Yes,
you
yes.
to Leslie and to EB and to Tim. And he's, I'd be there. I would, baby girl. Yes, you would. You'd be there. I might take the jaws of life, but I'd call on you. And to Teri Neal, who joined us as well.
Yes.
Let's see, Leslie, and I think I got everybody. And Joyce, of course, Joyce. Thank you so
Yes,
much for being
yes.
here. You can get in touch with Teri at
TeriPugh.com, TeriPugh.com, or on Instagram under Transiting Turbulence, or here on Facebook Live.
Yes, and you can join Launch Date Show on Instagram. There are a lot of good things. Teri keeps that page up. You can reach me, go to devinoday@gmail.com, or just leave me a comment wherever you're watching this show, because we always get those comments and we always reach out to you, private messaging, Facebook, and on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube, please, wherever you're watching, click subscribe and hit that little bell so whenever we go live, you know. Thank you. Join us every week, Wednesday at noon. And Teri always ends our show with,
I just want to go real quick and say you sounded just like a radio announcer just then. You just
every night.
that was smooth. I was like, she is channeling her DJ self right now.
Every now and then it just comes out. I've been doing it for 42 years. So I guess I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes.
I
do
felt
that.
like you were going to announce somebody at the Grand Ole Opry all of a sudden. I was like, okay, step back for it and wait, everybody.
Yeah.
But we end our shows with saying thank you all for joining us, the ones who commented, the ones who didn't comment. Thanks for being here with us, and go create yourself an amazing day and increase